Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome, July 11th, 2025, Friday editions of Trading Trends, ETF edition, week recap edition, coming at you with another great show here. New all-time highs in the SMH, and of course, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to take our big feature here. We've been pounding the table on it, talking about how much you have to own it. Just a matter of how much. We'll take a look at the charts, what upside there appears now. And of course, the market overall looks absolutely great. CMT had a great event last night. As I load up the screen here, it's good to talk technical analysis. Of course, very bullish folks in the room since we are technical analysts. So we looked at, charts and sector themes, and we expect a lot to stay pretty much in place after a nice washout that we had in April. So it's being a very nice picture here. Beautiful little, let me zoom out here, picture of Bitcoin. Yeah, these people look happy here, scaling the countryside. Today, silver, wow. Silver and Bitcoin both jumped 4% together, while bonds sell off. Yields did have quite a rise today. That was what commanded the headlines today. It was silver and Bitcoin both jumping 4%. Bonds fell off quite some. We'll take a look at TLT. They sold it off, meaning yields rose, and new all-time highs for IBIT and SMH. And really, when we zoom out on the week, it was all about an 8% rally in Bitcoin. Yes, a lot of it was overnight from yesterday. We'll of course see how it trades into the weekend, but this week, really, when all said and done, was about 8% rally in Bitcoin and a big 5 to 6% drop in Brazil and volatility. So overall, like to see the risk assets, get bid up and trade higher and up and to the right. It was kind of the consensus yesterday about many charts. Looks like a roulette wheel in the markets again, where everything deserves a little bit of allocation. So when all said and done, drop in Brazil and vol this week, but a lot of things went up. We shall take a look first. Let me get in here. Hopefully everyone is rocking and rolling on your way to a nice weekend here in mid-July. Let me go to the deck panel here. Okay, so first off, we'll look at big moves here. Tesla up 1.1%. This stock still on the outs to me when it's under that 325 or so mark. So I want to see that do a little bit more work. Tesla, Amazon looks great, up 1.2% today to 225. MicroStrategy up 3%. Of course, the correlation trade with Bitcoin itself breaking above 117, 118K. So strategy benefited up 3%. Meta down 1.3%. That's one of the best stocks of all, giving you an opportunity there in Meta. AMD up 1.5%. Stock looks very good. IWM got hammered pretty good today, down 1.4%. Google up 1.5%. We talked about IBIT, and we'll take a closer look at this. One of the best ETFs of all, actually the best ETF year over year. We'll take a look at it. Absolutely monstrous gains since just last July, adding 4% today. And we already covered Google. Okie doke. So as I zoom out here on the intraday tape, here is the open. Nice bidding up from the start, honestly. Right here is the opening bar. Really nice trading here. A little bit of a sell-off. Really supportive, constructive trading all day up until 3:30. They did sell it below VWAP, which was 623, right about 80, and actually ended up having more of a little bit of a red close down 35, but nothing serious. As I zoom out here, let me zoom out. Oop. Okay, so the zoom out here again. The new all-time highs were yesterday in SPY at 620. I'm rounding 627. So we look very good here. Obviously, a bullish accumulation phase. I'm still really looking for this to end. It could technically have ended yesterday, but this looks really strong, especially as we hold 615 with gusto as we are. It's pretty impressive. Up and to the right still. I wouldn't personally chase. Could we get to 630 next week? Yeah, it's possible. But to me, I think this market is going to take a breather in the next 2 to 3 weeks, right around to that 611 level. It's funny. A couple of days ago, I was looking at it before the momentum really kind of carried up. I mean, all week we were holding at least 620, and I expected our new floor to go somewhat to prior weeks lows right around the 606 level. I'm starting to think now this next drop that we have, let's say into the end of July, might take you just till about that 610 line, and then the buyers are going to step in. That was going to drop you to right around very close to about like a 55 RSI. And the market's strong, and I want the stochastic momentum mix to just drop off a little bit, but we are running on fumes essentially since mid-May. This has been really an extraordinary rise. To be exact, May 23rd. It's like we went out for Memorial Day, and we said, you know what, the market is going to be bid up from 580 persistently all the way to 625, and that's what's happened. So here we are in SPY. Let's look at the ETF moves of the week, the day of the week, and the year, and perhaps there's some opportunities. There's a lot of rotation going on. So let's take a look at stuff that happened today. I see a lot of catch-up trades getting love. I was saying before, the catch-up trades left were basically kind of like Apple, small caps, Ethereum, and cannabis. Small caps have already run. Cannabis are starting to bid it up some. It still looks very, very weak for years. Apple, I think, is probably the one hanging out there. It's going to get allocation. They could just buy a company that I think is going to be up, an AI company, and I think can shoot up 15%, and then it pulls up the Mag 7 trade and the indices overall to new highs above 6,400 potentially. So Apple's another one. Like I said, small caps ran, and Ethereum I think looks absolutely good. That one's going to catch up. So let's take a look at this and see how much we can add in terms of ideas. SLV, look at this bar, new 52-week high here on SLV. Again, catch-up trade, right? Gold has been the winner for a long time. Yes, silver has had its high since mid-June, about 3 weeks ago, but now a big candle higher. So it did a lot of it in one day for me. I said this silver for about a week and a half ago. I think I put out a bullish call. I'm looking at here, June 1st, around 32.5. So June 1st, I was bullish here. I'm sorry, June 2nd. Right around 31.75 rather. So right around there. I'll give it the high of day, 31.60. And here we are at 34.90. Just personally, I see it still having another bullish several days, up to a week or so, but fully value to me right around this 30, to be frank, right around 34.5. I don't love chasing it here. So expect this to possibly in a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks or so, to head down towards about 33 even. But congrats, more momentum ahead. Most likely the high of the day was 35.06. It ended up closing just a hair beneath that. Very strong trading in silver, similar to the S&P since May 19th. Just a lot of lift here since the 30 handle all the way to 35 today. So that is silver, very strong move. They bid up different kinds of commodities like a Bitcoin here to new all-time highs in the IBIT, up 4%. Did IBIT add today? We've been pounding the table since last year. You have to own IBIT. Honestly, IBIT is the best vehicle besides, obviously just open Bitcoin and Coinbase or whatnot, your platform. But this looks absolutely great. We got really bullish on Bitcoin. It kind of stuttered and didn't do a ton on June 6th, right around $60. So here, I'll just show the move. I like to do that. Helps my process right here. Right around there at $59 actually. It went to 62, a little bit choppy. Well, we got back to 57, and now a thrust towards basically almost $67. This, I think, I'm very curious to see how it trades this weekend. I know we say that every time, but for me, fully valued here at right around 65 even. So I want to make sure, I didn't do everything in one day. It's kind of the appearance I'm getting here, but obviously everything looks wonderful in crypto land. It's going to crest and continue to trade up. I think it'll hold the 65 handle for several days into early next week, and then I do see a small correction to about $61 or $5 off. So that'll be a nice $8 decline. People will probably be freaking out, saying, "Oh, that's the rug pull in Bitcoin," but really, it will be your opportunity to get into the best ETF of the past 12 months. It is IBIT. We'll take a look at this one later when we go over the year reviews. So personally, again, I personally wouldn't chase this at 65. We were talking about it when it was 59.60, but it's probably going to trade well with momentum up and to the right. But in 2 to 3 weeks time, I do see this pulling back to 61, and that will be your entry. Next thing that they bought today, multiple standard deviations. That's why we're discussing it. So they bought silver, they bought Bitcoin, and they bought gold. So they bought, there wasn't a huge day of buying Microsoft. I mean, you saw what the SPY did, about down 35 bips. But today was a day to accumulate metals, shiny yellow, and the silver and Bitcoin. So as we look at GLD here again, so silver 52-week high today. Gold had an all-time high back on April 22nd. I'm simplifying here to make it 318. We see where we are at 309. I like gold. I think I've been pounding the table as well as Gold Miner Juniors. That is an absolute superstar in ETF land. We'll take a look at that. But gold has just had absolutely tremendous flows since mid-January. I'm looking at that in terms of Chaikin money flow. So right here, these have really been strong closes on strong closing levels. So that closing on upticks, things like that, really upward momentum. And this has had, I know it looks a little bit like we're fitting it, but basically we've been above 40 RSI in this guy in gold since November, since shortly after the election. Just a beautiful looking chart for gold. I think this continues to rally towards about 315 to 317 in the next week or so. So about another $6 or so upside, another 2% up in gold. Ironically, I think silver is a little bit overdone, but has a lot of momentum. I do think gold has a nice week ahead. So if you want to play the almost reverse catch up of what the OG is, the gold versus the silver, or for that ratio to kind of move the other way, I like it in gold for a nice upside next week. Okay, next. So the losers today, they only sold 2 areas in a multiple standard deviation, and bonds got absolutely hammered today, down 1.4% is bonds today through TLT. The 20-year, again, meaning yields rose. Just looking at the chart here, ugly chart. Not many that look like this in the market, right? In terms of SPY or anything in terms of beta. This is the 20-year TLT. So bonds peaked in September here through TLT. Like I said, at 102 back there. And again, we hit the lows on this in May. Again, when TLT hit the low, that's what we're talking about. Really, they went with gusto into the S&P. No coincidence that rotation happened on May 22nd, right around that week. We hit $83, and here we are, you see, very close to $86 with a very heavy 200-day moving average continuing to roll over. I think this is going to try and find a base next week. I don't think it's done going lower. I think this tries to base next week around right around 85 even. I think it has a little bit more downside to go. Pretty, special fall today. Down more than 1% is a big deal in TLT. I think this tries to bottom right where my cursor is. Not so sure about new 52-week low. I don't think that happens next week. But I do think this tries to bottom around 84.5 to the 85 level, and then a rally over the next 2-3 weeks takes it to about 87 even. But bonds continue to look weak. And then the next one that they hammered. So IBB and the biotechs got hit about half the tune of this one. ARKG got hit pretty hard, down 3.33% is ARKG. So XBI and IBB did held their own better, but biotechs, depending on the basket, this one being Cathie Woods, did get hit. This has had a very, very nice run since June 25th. So here I'm looking just short term here off the lows. Very nice move. $24 and all the way to the top here at $26.40, and then starting to come down. It may maybe have another move next week towards this 26 even. I personally wouldn't chase it because after that, I do think it's going to head towards 24.5, and it will hold this 200-day moving average, and it'll start to stabilize and stop going lower. So an interesting turnaround to me in biotech, specifically the Cathie Wood basket. Really nice, strong, impressive trading since June 2nd. And then on June 10th, it reclaimed its 200-day moving average. Still work to do. Like I said, this group peaked in February at $31, but it looks constructive here. I like seeing this movement again in the rotation wheel that we're seeing in the market. Roulette wheel. A lot of areas of the market you want to have a piece. Some, that you need the rates to improve. Some you don't. A lot of market spaces are getting love, and I don't hate this personally. So personally, I would look into getting long this in about 2 weeks' time or so at around 24 even, and you can have easily 10% upside. All right, top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. I mean, again, singing the same song. IBIT, the number 1 place to be this week. Up 8% was IBIT this week. Yes, 4% of it was today. But just absolutely a great chart. Don't love chasing it above 65, but this has had a stupendous run for the past, month and a half or so. But IBIT looks absolutely great. New all-time highs and the best week of any ETF 1X. Number 2 best place, and you have to give away some return. So IBIT was up 8%, 8.1 to be exact. Silver number 2 at up 4.5%. We already talked about this one, up to new 52-week highs. It just looks very, very strong here. A lot of momentum with silver. These folks loving the catch-up trade. I, again, personally wouldn't chase it here. Full value for me is right around this 34.30 level. This silver can give back very quickly. So this can be down, 8% on Monday or something like that. And then that's where you want to get into your spots around 30, 32.75 would be an excellent area to enter silver. Gold to me is still preferable. And then the third best area to be were the airlines. You saw yesterday with the guidance from United, and the entire space just rocketed higher. These guys, Jets, were an absolute superstar in 2024, one of the top 5 ETFs of that year. If this group moves, it can really move. Here's the chart. I don't love chasing it. To me, it's kind of fully valued here at 24.5, so I don't love chasing it here. And that was, before yesterday's big move. So very, an inside day. This down 2% day is inside of where we traded yesterday. I think this is a very strong space. I think it mean reverts a little bit to 23.25, where my cursor is over the next 2 weeks or so, and that will be your entry. Just really good things happening in here, especially since mid to late April. This has really skyrocketed off the SPY 52-week lows, right off the 17 handle. Here we are quickly to 25. So like the Jets ETF, I would sit out for like about 2 weeks though, till you get in about 23.25. You get in maybe very close to that 200 moving average, and you get a nice 10% upside there too, to about the 25 handle. All right, so these were the best areas of this week. Totally risk on, right? Silver, Bitcoin, airlines. These were the best areas to be. All right, these spots hurt if you were long them, but they absolutely rocked it if you were short them. Brazil was the worst place to be in the stock market this week. Let's see what happened. Again, beta was absolutely crushing it. Bitcoin up 8. Let's see what happened with Brazil. So Brazil's been trying to enter its own recovery. Really significantly in a big way since early May here. Since May 8th, when it's around this 27 handle, it's done really a lot of work to get to 29. And then recently a big fall. It's under 50 RSI for the first time since it really had this nadir, if you will, since mid-April. And now it's starting to 20 bips. I don't think it has a fun about 10 days ahead of it. I think this continues to move towards about 27 even. I do think this holds the 200 moving average. It stops going lower, and similar to that biotech chart, you get some stabilization, and this will attract risk dollars. So I actually don't hate this space. I do think it may test some investors if you're long it. If I think it goes to 27, it's possible it goes to like 26.5 and such. But I do think this looks constructive and another place for rotation. Again, this was a big loser in 2024, and these are kind of the plays that you want to be aware of in markets. Always keep you on your toes. Next one, this will let me know that we were totally risk on. It wasn't just General Mills, Conagra, and Campbell Soup hitting 52-week lows yesterday. Totally risk on. Bring it to me. The next one was VIX, was your second worst spot to be in this week through VXX. So Brazil was down 6.1, through VXX was down 5. So this thing got, it was actually up today, up 0.5%, with the SPY down about 35 bips. But the week was bad for VXX. It lost an average of 1% a day, just a slow stair step, lower and lower. At this point, the lows are back right around here at 41. We're 10% away or not. I think this will stabilize and base and find a level next week right around 44.5 to 44. Let me see here, right around, because it could really dip off. Right around 44 even. So I think this has a little bit more to go. SPY just looks increasingly strong, and I think it'll get back to where my cursor is at 44 even. So volatility, the second worst place to be. And then this was very close between Cyber and IGV. We went IGV for just larger coverage and to be the more important place. Software, very, very important in the market. It had a nasty week though, not horrible, but down 3.5% after a rip-roaring all-time high on July 3rd. It went to 111.60, and now a quick move lower. Again, you always want to point out, I think we mentioned this actually on the video right before the holiday. We said there's a bearish divergence. You didn't even get to a 70 RSI. You actually only scratched to 68. And typically when that happens, you get a quick fall to the 20-day moving average. So right then, as we did that, I said, don't be shocked if it gets to 107. And vamoosh, here we are at 107. So this is obviously beta and other, Mag 7 type trades, Salesforce. It goes with the Q goes essentially. But I don't think this has a great 2 weeks. It just has come up very far, very fast essentially, but amazing flows since mid-January. I think this tries to base right around 104. I think this actually has potentially a rough 1 to 2 weeks. It may hang in here around 108, but I actually am not shocked given the divergence that this falls to actually that 106 or even as low as that 104 area. And I think that might test people and say, whoa, mega cap, it's over all that. But I think it actually zigs and zags here right around the 50 RSI, but the strength will still continue to hold from late April. So, good looking chart, but it may have begun this week. This was the third worst place to be. And also you're seeing weakness in cyber. So kind of that tech drag, just giving up a little bit of the gains since the all-time highs. But again, depends where you are. There's some bifurcation. Q's all-time highs yesterday. The specific group in software did it 8 days ago. But the third worst place to be was this chart here in software this week, down 3.5%. All right, so top 3 trades of the past 5 days. If you were long IBIT, if you were short Brazil through EWZ, and you were short VXX through volatility, you absolutely crushed it. So trades that come to mind: short IBIT puts that paid handsomely, short EWZ calls would have paid rich, and of course short VXX calls. That was a trade that stood out. We talked about it here. You just have to pick your spots in terms of liquidity. Would have paid handsomely. All right, one of my most favorite parts of the show as we start to wrap up here. This was turbo mode. Top 3 trades of the past 52 weeks. Number 1, you're going to get some repeat charts here. IBIT, new all-time high today. The number 1 ETF in the past 52 weeks. This is up 106% over 52 weeks for an average of, 2% a week, basically. You don't find this just everywhere. I was talking with Ryan Dietrich last night and said, how is it that IBIT is, or Bitcoin is basically financially engineered? It seems to double every year, and why don't we allocate more? And he just kind of laughed, and he said, like 3 to 5%. Anything more than that is a little bit too risk averse, but check your profile. And it's just seems very commonplace now. Everyone's going to start allocating 3 to 5% slowly over time. And we were talking about how it didn't seem like folks were talking about, Bitcoin 116K out on the street. So a little bit of more to go. That climbed a wall of worry, and it could just go higher. So IBIT absolutely looks great. I don't want to chase it here much above $65. Want to see how it trades, any kind of euphoria, animal spirits this weekend. But I'm not totally shocked if over the next 2 weeks or so we do get about a 10% decline, and that you'd see Bitcoin go from, again, like 116 down to 104, something like that. And folks, similar to how I said in the S&P that the new floor is going to be about 6,000 going forward, I think that 100,000 is the mark for Bitcoin going forward. It sounds amazing. And then, you get into those whole anecdotal things, what's next for Bitcoin, 0 or 1 million? Well, if you first said it, which was close, or which was first, 10,000 or 0, we're at 10,000, now we're at 100,000. It's going to be kind of hard to go the other way, in my opinion. So I'm a momentum follower. That's up and to the right. Literally, you can see this thing from the bottom left. My gosh, last August 5th, by the way, just to hammer home a point, Yen-Mageddon, this thing traded down to $28 if you bought it when the globe was in fear last August. If you remember Yen-Mageddon, we had that huge yen unwind trade really make the globe get concerned last year, down to $28, and now here we are at 66. The number 1 ETF year over year, IBIT. Congrats if you hold it. Just a matter of how much you got to hold it. Number 2, and this came up last night too, is ARK. So some funds, and we talked about this with the panel. Some folks, funds, RIAs cannot buy IBIT, so they get the closest thing, and to them, it's ARK. And this is why these are very linked in returns. This hit a new 52-week high yesterday. It was very interesting to see, though, that some folks cannot get exposure to IBIT, so they buy the Cathie Wood ARK instead. Of course, this is Tesla, Roblox, different things. It's not space straight up Bitcoin, but that's how they get exposure. So it's very interesting. Here's the ARK. We've been pounding the table on this. This is one of the leaders and one of the best ETFs during Trump administration 1. This does exceptionally well since June 2nd when it had a 56 handle. Here we are now at 72. I would wait for it looks absolutely great. Of course, 52-week high. I mean, green skies, blue skies ahead. Green skies, Freudian slip. It does look like everything's green on this one. But I would rather wait in about 2-ish weeks or so. This is the second best ETF from last July. Absolute superstar. You want to get in this. I personally would rather wait in about 2 to 3 weeks. I think you get your entry at about 68 to 68.5. This one's volatile, but this one's strong. The force is strong with this one, my friends. But around like 68.5 to 69, I think is where you get an entry, right around here, coinciding with the former highs from February. Again, old resistance becomes new support, and that's where we're heading. You have a convergence of the moving averages here at 69.2. Something tells me that you get like a 3.5% decline in this over the next 2 weeks, and that'll be your entry to get into the second best ETF of the past 12 months. They hit a new 52-week high today, and this one was talking about when I was on the chart report last week. When GDXJ gets on sale, just buy it. Don't overthink it. Don't just tap yourself on the shoulder and say just buy it. I think it's still setting up right here. This is your third leader year over year. So you have IBIT at plus 106, and think about the alpha you give up. Next is ARK at plus 58. So just you have to own a little bit of IBIT at least. Just own it. You got to own a little bit of it. More is up to you, but you got to own some of it just for the alpha. And then you can own ARK for a safer bet, or if you can get exposure to IBIT. And then this GDXJ is no joke. It was up 2% today. I think, again, the highs were back here on June 5th at $72. You got a divergence there. It didn't even scratch 70 in the RSI, and then you get a fall to the 20-day as is predicted. This here under 67.5 is a wonderful entry. I said this a couple of days ago as well, I think in the Monday video. So here is 67.5. You had, honestly, many chances since the end of June to do such things. Today, there's 2% thrust. is now going forward higher here. I think this is headed to 71, if not 72. This looks great. The next leaders after gold miners was more just gold, silver miners. It's very metals related. So this is where the alpha in the market is coming from year over year. You must be in assets. These things are appreciating. Hopefully you're in the right ones. I'm talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about gold miners, and the juniors are better. GDXJ is better than GDX. So this looks great. And they've been bidding this thing up. Honestly, I'll forgive this during the 52-week low for SPY, but this thing has been truly bid up all of 2025. This is kind of standing room only to buy since the inauguration, GDXJ, and it's been a winner since last year. So again, GDXJ up 44% year over year. So that is all. Congratulations to all my Bitcoin folks, and have an absolutely tremendous weekend. And we will talk to you on Monday. Woo!